Hello YouTube, hope you're having a nice day. Today's video is Reed's 5-part plan to defeat the squash borer. Now, last year I had so much trouble with the squash borer. What is a squash borer? It's a beautiful moth that comes and lays its eggs in all of your squash plants. And by squash I mean zucchinis, squashes, melons, anything viney for the most part. And it's terrible because the worms, the eggs hatch, become little larvae, they burrow into your stems and they just eviscerate the plant. And obviously, if you disconnect where the roots are from where the leaves are, the stem usually dies. Unless there's certain plants that can send out roots further up, but we'll get to that in a minute. So what is the 5-part plan? 1, I'm gonna plant decoy crops early. I'm gonna list all of my plans so that you can stop watching if you don't want to watch the rest of the video. And then I'll go into more detail afterwards. So 1, plant decoy crops early and then remove them. 2, plant desired crops later. So the ones you actually want to keep, plant later in the season after the brief period where the squash borer lays its eggs. 3, get small yellow buckets and fill them with water and distribute them around your garden, and in this type of situation, maybe even further than that. 4, stay vigilant. If you see any sort of holes in the stems, come back with a razor blade and make a small incision. That should kill the larvae because they usually only have 1 or 2 per plant. So that should help protect the plants that do get infected. If you see a bad infection, remove it. And then 5, plant resistant crops. So let's go. Okay, sorry about that. The camera ran out of free space. So on the first premise, planting decoy crops, what you want to do is plant a ton of seeds very early, and then hopefully the squash borers will lay all the eggs on those. Then you can pull them out and you can get rid of them. I don't think squash borers are such a problem if you have your own garden, but in a place like the community gardens where there's been 2 or 3 decades of people not necessarily managing for the squash borers, then it becomes a huge problem. So I'm gonna lay decoys everywhere. I saved a ton of seed from the zucchini plants last year, which they seem to like. I'll put those all around the exterior, and the deer might eat some, but I don't think they'll eat all of them. And then just everywhere, knowing that I'll pull them out later, so they're not gonna crowd out my plants that I actually want. So plant decoy crops and remove them. I think that will be key. The second one is plant your desired crops later. Now, once the squash borers, they only have 1 season where I am. In tropical places, they can have several cycles, but in Iowa, they only lay 1 round of eggs, from what I've read. So if I plant my crops in, say, June, maybe middle of June, hopefully the squash borers will be done laying by then, and my plants should be fine. So that's number 2. Number 3 is I'm gonna get the yellow buckets. I guess that's sort of a decoy as well, just like the decoy plant. Supposedly they're attracted to the color yellow, so I'll try it out. The idea is I hope they drown in the water. I might add some soap, some like non-toxic soap, but from what I've read, water should be fine. And 4, I gotta stay vigilant. Even after all these measures, some of my crops will probably be affected. I'll get the razor blade and I'll try to keep them as healthy as possible. And then the last one is, I've selected for crops that, out of all the ones that died last year, there was a couple zucchinis that, even though they got infected and the entire base got just eviscerated and shredded and it was rotted, they sent out roots further up on the plant and they grew zucchinis all season long. So I let those zucchinis get a couple huge zucchinis and then I let them kind of develop over a few months after the zucchini was picked, and then I harvested the seeds and they should be perfect. So I've selected for crops that fit this context and they should be resistant to the squash borers even if I fail. So that's my 5-part plan on how to beat squash borers. Hopefully it helps you beat squash borers yourself, and I hope you have an excellent day.